Alive again. Two young noble women leaned against each other on a divan, their throats agape. Past their lifeless bodies, a woman and a man danced in an elegantly appointed ballroom, one smiling, the other sweating. The only sound was the scrape of the woman's heels on the polished floor. "Countess," the nobleman said, "the rural nobles grow restless. They ask their daughters and, oh Vitaly, if you are no longer useful, I can make other arrangements." Countess breathed into his ear. She held the man close, her nails piercing his back and keeping his posture straight. "Surely you don't expect me to accept common serfs?" Baron Vitaly's facade cracked. "Never, my lady. I will continue to offer you tribute. I thought you might." For centuries she'd witnessed the petty, tedious, unchanging nature of humanity. None of it surprised her. She felt as if she were repeating conversations she had 50 years ago. A tapping on the door saved her from having to carry on this farce. "Come," Countess called sweetly, and the door opened to reveal a terrified page. "My lady, there's a foreigner in the square demanding to see you, with huge armor." "Well," she said, "visitors to our city are rare enough, but making demands is a bit rude, don't you think, Baron?" She strode toward the balcony door, the page shrinking from her as she passed. "Good boy," she murmured. "Tell everyone that there will be a fresh corpse in the square by morning." She stepped onto the balcony and surveyed her city. Grey buildings huddled under Velikov's perpetually cloudy sky. Sunset had passed and her people were huddled in their homes, terrified of the darkness. A cacophony of yelling and clashing steel reached her ears. "Is someone fighting? In my city?" Countess crouched on a rooftop and looked down at the square lit by the scant moonlight forcing its way through the clouds. A tall woman clad in an enormous suit of armor dominated the plaza. She held a great axe in one hand and a massive shield in the other. Three of Velikov's guardsmen lay at her feet, bleeding and unconscious. The warrior seemed unfazed by the fight she'd just won. As Countess considered her next move, the woman looked directly up at her, pointing the axe. "You! I tried to tell your lackeys that my quarrel wasn't with them, but they wouldn't listen." Countess dropped effortlessly to the cobbled square, drew her twin blades and considered the woman. "Ah," she murmured. "Whom did I kill? A lover? A sibling? My father. He was a merchant, traveling to— Spare me the details, child. I won't remember any of them. I will have justice." "Yes, yes, I'm familiar with it. Shall we?" As she finished speaking, Countess leapt forward, blades poised to take the woman's eyes. The warrior pounded her great axe onto her own shield, sending out a shockwave that threw Countess back, slamming her into the side of a building. She slid to the ground. Dazed, she scrambled back to her feet, shaking her head. It had been a long time since she'd felt pain like that. This could be interesting. The warrior charged, axe held high. Countess reached for the darkness and vanished. She reappeared on the warrior's back and brought her swords arcing down, but the woman spun around, slamming the shield into her and throwing her to the ground. She landed, rolling to soften the impact. How could this armored woman move so fast? If she was not augmented by magic, she must have spent years in training. Just for me? Countess thought. I'm flattered. The woman was almost upon her again, swinging her great axe. Countess rolled aside an instant before it cut onto the cobblestones, throwing sparks. She leapt to her feet, but the warrior's shield bashed her. She felt her ribs shatter and her ankle snap as she tumbled to the ground again. Armored feet kicked and stomped her. Blows from the shield rained down upon her. She dodged most, rolling and twisting, but there were too many. In desperation, she crawled between the warrior's legs and dragged herself to her feet. She could only limp toward the center of the square, trying to get her bearings. "I am terror," the warrior declared, coming after her. "I will free this land from you and lay my father's soul to rest." Countess tripped over an unconscious guardsman. She rolled onto her back and looked up to see the warrior, axe raised and ready to end it. But the woman paused, glaring down at her. Her eyes darted past Countess. The hesitation was all Countess needed. She reached for the darkness further than she ever had before. Her body nearly ripped apart, existing for a moment in two places at once. Then she was gone. Okay, now that was pretty good lore. The biggest, I guess, piece of information we can take from this story is from the new character Terra, whom I believe is an upcoming hero. Why? Well, there's been a lot of data mined information about a hero called Justice. One of the lines in the lore mentions justice, and there's quite an emphasis on this throughout the lore. After all, Terra has spent her life training for this moment to avenge her father. Justice is the data mine name, and Terra is the actual hero name. It would also be quite fitting that since we're getting hero teasers this week, Epic slipped this one in to bring some hype around Terra, and now it makes sense why we have Countess lore week, because her lore is possibly connected to the next hero. The lore is extremely well written, and I'm actually very impressed. I could imagine every scene in my head quite clearly, only wish that we would get some animated shorts to complement them, since they definitely seem to bring the lore to life. I think this is a great start, and I'm looking forward to the second part. Although you Countess mains probably expected the lore to be about Countess and her power, it was a nice turn of events that she ended up being the one that had to flee. There was also references to her abilities. Firstly, when they say Countess reached for the darkness and vanished, which is obviously reference to her shadow slip, and then they go on to say she reappeared on the warrior's back and brought her swords arcing down, which in my mind is her feast or ultimate. Why is this important? Well, it gives us an indication that they're not using made up abilities, and so when Terra pounds her great axe into her own shield, sending out a shockwave that threw Countess back, does that mean that one of Terra's abilities has a knockback? Things to think about. Let me know what you guys think of the Countess lore. Are you impressed? Would you like to see like animated shorts like they do for Overwatch? I know that was one of the reasons why I played the game, because it really did bring the characters to life and you felt attached to the universe. So I hope that we see that in Paragon. It is very early stages though. If you enjoyed this video, smash that thumbs up button, subscribe for all the latest Paragon content, and until next time guys, peace.